everybody, it's Jasmine. So today I am finally here. I'm back from vacation and I promise you guys that I will show you guys my review on the brand new ShopMissA palettes. These ones are limited edition. They went on sale on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So if you were able to get that deal, they were $7 each. And then when they initially launched, you can get all four of these for $30. So they've had a sufficient amount of sales on these already. And I was actually testing out two palettes in particular when I was on vacation. So I got a good like 4 or 5 day use out of these palettes. So it's been a long try on for these ones, so I do have my opinions on it. And as a bonus, I do have their new cream blushes, their cream highlighters, and then their blushes. So I have a lot to say, and I am going to talk about how I got my entire face. So let's talk about that first, because I feel like you guys will have a little bit of questioning on that. Today I went in with kind of a taupey purple vibe, so I wanted to dive into every single palette to kind of show you guys a little bit of how they perform. So I started with the Immersed Palette and I took the white shade and I set that all over my lid because, as most of you guys know, that's what I like to do in every single tutorial. I followed it up with a light lilac shade, and this one came out to be a little bit more pastel than I anticipated, but it was all good. Right when I blended it out, it was pretty much a really good transition. I didn't start off with any tan transitions, which is kind of different, but I really liked how this one turned out. I used my Furless ME3 with that one. I went ahead into the Xoxo palette and I used some of those mauvey purple tones to deepen up the crease even more. These ones I felt like had a little bit more of a neutral cool undertone. So even though that the shade itself was pretty similar, the undertone was different and I felt like it would give me a little bit more dimension. So I applied that with my Sigma E35 to get that into my crease, and I felt like it wasn't dark enough yet and I really wanted to play around with the shimmer. So I took a rose gold shade in the Bare palette and I just went ahead into my Juno & Co. ES06 brush and I pretty much did like a faux cut crease. Typically this is kind of the method that I like to do whenever I'm running late and I want to look glam. This is an easy method to just apply and go, and I did use this shade a lot when I was on vacation and I really liked it for my lid. I think it stays on really well and I think that it makes the eyes pop even more. Now finally, I really wanted to deepen up this crease because I just felt like it was missing the depth. So I went into the Vanity Palette, which is the cool tone purple palette, and I took a really dark plum and I applied that right in my outer corner with my Sigma E25, and I felt like that made the look just how I wanted it to be. And then to finish off the lower lash line, I pretty much just went into the same neutral purple tones in the Xoxo palette and I applied that onto my lower lash line. And then for my inner corner, I used a shimmer shade from the Immersed Palette into the inner corner, and that has a pink reflect to it, and I thought that tied in everything. As for my cheeks, I already had bronzer on, so all I had to do was blush and highlight. So for the blush, I used the Dandy blush, and this one was a really nice light pink, but also kind of terracotta. I know everybody says it's a terracotta color in every single tutorial. I know you guys hear it too, but this one is really nice and I feel like it is definitely the blush shade that I go for. If you guys watch my tutorials, you guys know how I love Apricot in the Middle by Wet n Wild, and it's because it is a lighter peach, but it also has a little bit of tan to it, so it looks really natural on the skin. And as for highlighter, I did take the cream highlights. I first went into the one called Silk. This one is a rose gold. I patted it in and I felt like I needed more luminosity to my cheeks, so I went in with a more golden white highlight called Dream, and I felt like that finished off the look. So this is the completed look. I think it's pretty wearable. I mean, I wore it to school and I thought it was kind of school appropriate. You know what? I know you guys always call me out now because I said I can never do natural makeup to school, and it's reasons like this. You know, I try out so much makeup and sometimes I just can't do natural, but that's fine. So let's talk more in depth about the palettes, the blushes, everything like that. So I brought the Xoxo palette and the Bare palette on my vacation simply because these were the two neutral palettes that they had in the collection. As you see that this one has more of like the red berry tones, and then this one has definitely those neutral nude tones that I feel like go with everything. And I wanted to be safe, you know, I didn't want to go outside of my comfort zone, especially for vacation, because one, I wanted something that if it didn't work well, that I could make it work with like bronzer or something. And so I felt like these ones are really, really easy. So when I was actually doing my makeup for Thanksgiving, which is the day before my vacation, I was using these palettes as well. And then today was my first time using Immersed and the Vanity Palette. Through and through with working with each of these palettes, by the way, they retail for $10 each, if I didn't say that before. Working with all these palettes, I do have to say there is a common theme, and that is that their mattes are pressed in very soft. So with that being said, you're not going to get extreme color payoff right off the bat. So whenever you do your transition shade, you typically go in with a brush that's a little bit more flimsy, a little bit more fluffy, because you really want that nice blend. Now for me, when I was blending in the transition shades, I felt like I had to build up, which is something that is good for beginners. But if you're someone who really likes intense color payoff right off the bat, then you can still make it work. It's just that you're gonna have to use a brush that is densely packed for that. With that being said, it's kind of like, are you into that? Are you not into that? The shimmers though, the shimmers are so good. If you have ever purchased their individual single eyeshadows from the A2O line, the one that are like $2.50, the shimmers in here are pretty much identical to the ones in the single pans, and I think that it is so good because those shimmers and those single pan shadows, those ones are probably one of my absolute favorites. They pick up really nicely with the finger, with the brush. When I use shimmers in general, I like to use a densely packed brush. I don't think that these apply very well with a flimsy brush like the shimmers, but you can still make it work. You could definitely use it as a highlight. Another perk that I like, especially when I was on vacation, was that in the Bare palette, this shade down here, I used this one for my eyebrows. So I did not pack a brow powder, and I really wanted to get the full use out of it. So I used a lot of the gold shades. I used a lot of these brown tones right there. Those ones are my absolute favorite. This one, that one's been used and abused every single day on my vacation. And then the shimmers in this one too, amazing. Love that. I mean, you can't really see how much I used it, but I did use quite a bit. And I also want to say that the packaging on these is a little bit of a lesser quality, but then again, you're getting 25 shades for $10, and so you're kind of having to sacrifice the packaging for the price. So you guys know me, I try a lot from ShopMissA. Whenever they have new releases, I'm always the first to buy it. And when I am comparing these ones to their 9-pan eyeshadow palettes, you know, like the Wildflower, I'm a Beach palette, those ones, these ones are definitely a lot softer and they're easier to blend, just a little bit more than those. Those ones, I feel like you have to use a densely packed brush or else you're not gonna get a good look. These ones, I feel like you can use both flimsy brushes and densely packed brushes. If I'm comparing the quality of these to their single mattes, single shimmers, like I said, are pretty much identical. Their mattes though, the single mattes I feel like are better in pigmentation. They're not as soft, but they're not as hard as the ones in the 9-pan shadow palettes. So with that being said, this one I feel like is marketed towards the people who are beginners, people who want to learn how to blend, and people who pretty much just like a well-rounded palette. Like if you already have a bunch of nude palettes, you probably don't want this. But maybe you don't have a full-blown cool tone palette like this. This one actually busted. I should have said that earlier, but this one busted upon arrival, and this is one of the first actual ShopMissA items that I've received broken. I have had other things that I've had from ShopMissA, but they weren't the ShopMissA AOA brand. So this one was a little bit of a bummer, but you know what? I was able to fix it. It was mostly kind of like bigger chunks. It wasn't small chunks, so it was easy to press back in. But if you're into like pops of color like this while still being wearable, you know, maybe you don't have a palette like this, and I definitely think it's a little bit worth it in that sense. Let's talk about longevity, because at Disneyland, let me tell you how long I was up for. I was out and about for about a good, you know, 15-16 hours. I was out all day, and I was putting literally my entire face to the test, and I am gonna do a tutorial on how I actually did all that, like my full beat for Disneyland. But I wanted to say that my eyeshadow looked really good at the end of the day. The only con that I have is that the shimmers are so pigmented that they transfer onto my lashes, the lash band, not the eyelash, but they transfer onto the lash band, but that's fine because I carried around like a travel sized eyeliner and I was just touching up. Other than that, there is just very minimal fading. I do have to say, like around the edges is where you see the fading. If you look towards like where you blend and like where you concentrate the colors, they kind of stay in place, but in the places where you disperse the colors, that's kind of where it will fade. Did I experience any patchiness? No, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I had high expectations for these, although I wish that the mattes were just a little bit more pigmented. I know I keep mentioning about the mattes and the shimmers, but I wish the mattes were just a little bit more pigmented, and it wasn't so that I had to continuously build up, build up, build up. And I'm not like saying that, oh, I was building up for like 10 minutes. It was just like, I felt like I had to dip in like maybe 2 to 3 times to build up. And I know that kind of seems like not a big deal, but there's other shadows that kind of just like, oh, you can do one tap and then blend it and it's already good to go. These ones 2 to 3 times is how much you would have to build up. So right now I've had my makeup on for about 7 hours. I actually just got home from school, so I'm looking, I wanted to say I was looking kind of crusty, but I don't really look that crusty, I'm gonna be honest. So I'm not really picky with my blushes. So this one, for the color itself, I really liked it. I mean, I don't expect my blushes to stay on all day. That's just, I don't really care for blush. I just feel like it's a nice add-on. Like, I like to pack it and I like to use it, but it's not something that I'm really crazy for, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really picky. I really do like this shade. They have a very nice selection of blushes, I do have to say. Oh, by the way, I should note that when I saw these on their Instagram, I immediately thought that they were gonna be kind of like Super Shock shadows because they were in kind of this container, but they're just regular matte powder blushes. They're not anything wet or creamy. So if you're into just regular powder blushes and you're looking for something on the go, or maybe if you want to sneak this into maybe a travel bag, a take on the go bag, then this is definitely really good because it's convenient and it works really well. I didn't find any patchiness, and I mean, it wore for 7 hours. I mean, it's kind of gone, but again, I don't really expect that much from a blush. As for the highlight, I do have to say, in front of the camera and with all these lights beaming on me, you definitely can still see it, and that's a good thing because it looks good in photos. But in real life, it's not as beaming and shiny. It looks a little glossy, yeah, but I do have to say that it did emphasize a lot of the texture on my cheeks because I am breaking out just a little bit because I didn't pack my whole skincare regimen on my vacation, but that was my fault. So it did take off some of the foundation underneath when I was patting it in, but I felt like if I applied it on top of maybe a lighter coverage foundation, or maybe just put it on top of my bare skin, then it would work. I'm not really a cream person, if I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not a cream person, so I just have mixed feelings about it, if that's the right thing to say. I just have mixed feelings because I don't really use it, but if I do use it, then I'm gonna make it work, you know. I don't know. It's a weird thing that I have with myself and cream products, but I did see that on their Instagram, the ShopMissA Instagram, they were like, oh, pair the cream highlights with our Powlighters. They're gonna be so amazing. So I have this one in the shade Astro, and I just wanted to apply it right on top. My cheeks still kind of are a little bit, I wanna say, like, has a little bit of a residue. It's nothing too serious though, it's just what I observed. So I'm gonna apply that right on top. I will give it this. It holds the Powlighters in better than if I just put the Powlighters on my face regularly. So with that being the case, I think that if you like a really blinding highlight, then you might really enjoy this, because my Powlighters don't normally do this on its own. So that's something really nice to know. I like that a lot better than this. But as for the blush, it does sheer out. These are called cream sheer blushes, so they are going to be a little lighter than what is in the packaging. By the way, these are a lot smaller than I anticipated. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't thinking it would be this small. So I am just going to go ahead and apply it for you right now, so you can kind of get the gist of how it looks on the skin. So this is the blush in the shade Demure. I think that since my makeup is already set and already like super matte by now, I think that it's making my foundation a little patchy underneath. But I think that when you work with creams, I think you're supposed to use it when your foundation is still kind of wet. Is that really? I don't know. But I mean, it looks natural. If I just continue to pat it in and like really press it in, it's gonna look real good. If you're into creams, then definitely get it. I'm just personally not really into it, but it did last a sufficient amount of time. Like I said, 7 hours. It could probably go in about 9 hours, and then I think it will clock out. But that is pretty much all I really have to say. The only thing left in this review is me swatching it on my arm. So let's get into that. So this is the Immersed Palette, and these shades right here, these ones are going to be your iridescent shades. So these ones will look better paired on top of a darker shade for sure. They do have a flip to it. So you have a golden flip, a pink flip, a green flip, purple flip, and then you get into these chunkier shades. And this one has kind of, I want to say, like a champagne sheen, and this one has a silver sheen. These ones I feel like definitely are the iffier shades in the palette because they did come off really chunky. And then you get into these shades right here, which I feel like are the more wearable shades in the palette. So you get your oranges, pinks, and purples. So this is the back side of my arm, and we are starting to get into more of the crazy colors. So you definitely have the blues, greens, that purple. You have another chunky shade. This one has more of a golden reflect to it, but it also has a white in it. I don't know, it's really hard to pick up on camera. And then you also have more shimmers down here. These ones are going to be your metallics. So these ones are going to be a rose gold, a gold, a duochrome. This one is a brown to a blue. Sounds ugly, but if you're into that Boom Boom Room shade by MAC, this is kind of Boom Boom Room's little sister. And then you get into your warm tones, like your fiery oranges. So while we are still on this side, this one is the Vanity Palette, and this side right here, this is probably like the first 2.5 rows of the palette. It's all purple tones. I don't know if you guys can see those darker shades right there, but those ones are really dark and plummy. I really have no room in this closet to show you guys. I am so sorry. But here we start off with a white, and then we go into the taupes. It starts to deepen it up with a little bit of a satin shade, and then you get into the metallics, which are these four right here. So you have a dark lavender, lilac, and you have a slight golden taupe shade, and then you have a really darkened berry brown. You have more mattes right here, which is your taupe, your mid-tone brown with purple. This one is a blackened plum, and then this one is a satin plum. And then here you go on this side, and this is where it kind of gets more neutral. So you do start off with a purple, and then you go into a really light taupe. This blends into my skin, and then you have four variations of browns. They all kind of vary slightly with the different undertones. So as you can see, this one has a little bit more of a neutral warm, cool, neutral, and then this one has that plum undertone. And then you get into this magenta shade right here. That one is a satin, and then you have a really dark bronze. This one is a white with a purple pink reflect, and then you have another satin right here, and this one is another dark plum, and then you have these two shades, which is your mid-tone taupe and then mauve. So this is the Bare palette, and this one focuses more on your neutral tone. So you start off with 3 mattes, you get into the bronze, gold, and then kind of an orangey gold, and then you get into a rose gold, light gold, a darker champagne gold, more of a darker bronze, a lighter bronze, and then a really nice white baby pink. You then transition into these 3 transition shades. I know you cannot see these. These 2 are actually my favorite transition shades for my eyes, but you just can't see them in the swatch. You do have a darker mid-tone brown, darker, warmer brown, but this one kind of has like a plum-ish undertone. You get a charcoal gray, which I thought would be black, but it's actually gray. You get a dark maroon shade, another gold, but this one has more of a copper base to it. You get a metallic gunmetal color, and then you get a really cool tone taupe, another dark color that is a little bit darker than this one right here. You have another mid-tone warm brown, and then you have a ashier dark brown that I use for my eyebrows. And this is going to be your Xoxo palette, the warm tone palette. So right here you are starting off with a lot of warm tones. So you have a warm maroon, warm bright orange, warm rose gold, warm yellowy white orange. You have a dark maroon, another rose gold, but this one's a little bit lighter, more of a baby pink. And then you have a plummy red, another fiery red. This one has more of an orange undertone than this one right here. You have a red, more burgundy, a metallic fuchsia, and then you have a white icing type shade. And this is the other side. You have a cool tone brown. This one's supposed to be a green, but it looks a little gray. You have another cool tone brown, but this one runs just a little bit more warmer. It's a lighter shade than this one. And then you have a purple, 2 transition shades right here. This one's just a little bit darker right here. Another type of purple shade, a little bit more on the neutral side than this one. And then this one is going to be kind of like a pastel shade of purple. Another type of plummy taupe shade of satin dark purple, a orangey gold, a dark rose gold, and then a dark fuchsia. These ones are going to be your satins. So I have right here the swatches of the cream highlighters, and I wanted to just start off with the lightest shade right here, which is Opal, and it is going to have a light pink reflect. If you want a peachy reflect, this one is going to be Dream, a golden reflect called Haze, a fuchsia pink, which is called Wink, a more purpley pink called Grace, and then the last one here, which is a rose gold, that one is Silk. So here are the swatches of some of the cream blushes. So we're going to start off with this pink. This one is called Cupid. We're going into more of a rosy called Cozy. Oh my god, that rhymed. My favorite one, which is Demure. This one is more of a brownish rosiness. This hot pink one is called Passion. If you like something with more of a plummy undertone, this one is Merlot. And then another hot pink, but this one has a fuchsia undertone. This one is called Bloom. Here's another cream blush. This one is more of a blue toned red. This one is called Shy. And then finally the last one here, the cream blush. This one is called Charm, and this one is more of an orangey red. The blushes, by the way, I did not mention this before, has a thicker consistency as opposed to the cream highlights. This section right here is going to be the powder blushes. So I'm going to start off with this light shade here called Delight, and this one is going to be your baby pink. It has a little bit more of a neutral undertone to it, so if you're really pale and you just want that flush, this one will be the one for you. Dandy right here is starting to get into a little bit more of an orange hue. I really like this shade right here. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper in that orange spectrum, this shade here called Wispy is really pretty. You have a baby pink right here, and this one is a Darling. This brown shade here that kind of looks like a bronzer, this one's called Pheno. This really bright orange one here is called Auburn. You're starting to get into a fuchsia pink, and this one is called Looker. And then finally the last one, which is the hottest pink, is going to be called Euphoria. I kid you not, guys, it takes me like an hour to do swatches. So tiring, but pretty much swatches just shows you guys the color, not really the application. I feel like most of the time actually things apply better when you actually use it as opposed to the swatches, but you know, it's better to see how the color looks on your skin, especially if you're my skin tone 20. So that pretty much wraps it up. Again, like all my other reviews, if I have anything else to say and if I forgot to say anything, then I'll leave it in the description box below with the price, with the description, with the colors, everything like that. You guys will see it in the description. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye! Peace out, Girl Scouts.